Yep, we're live.
Okay, let's go.
So, make sure the mics are on, because the mics are
If the green light's not on, your mic's not
There we
on.
go.
And then this sure thing doesn't do anything, never mind. So that was a mute button, but it's not.
Alright,
Ready? Okay, it is, what time is it?
6:31.
It's 6:31, and I call the March 19th, 2024 special meeting of the Franklin County Planning Commission meeting to order. Before we get started in the meeting, I will turn things over to staff to discuss meeting format.
so tonight's meeting will be conducted through hybrid in-person online meeting platform. Let's see. Please remember to mute phones when not speaking. If you wish to comment and need clarification on a public hearing item in your online, please send us an email at planinquiry@franklincountylaw.gov before the public comment period closes. Once public comment period has closed on said item, comments will not be included as part of discussion. To those intents, please remember to speak into the microphone when addressing staff or public comment/testimonies.
Will planning staff please call roll call and announce whether or not we have a quorum?
Mike Corrales. Melinda Didier. Mike Vincent.
Here.
Mark DeRuiter. Here. Stacy Knifeman.
Here.
Manny Gutierrez.
Here.
And that's everybody. So that, we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved. Second.
The second has been moved by Commissioner Knifton and seconded by Commissioner
Gutierrez.
Gutierrez. Thank you.
Oh, so Knifton moved? I thought it was, okay.
Yeah, Knifton, Gutierrez, okay. So then, approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the December 5th, 2023 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the December 5th, 2023 meeting.
I will second.
Okay, so then, moved by Commissioner Knifton and seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez. All in favor? Aye. Now time for the public hearing portion of our meeting. Good evening and welcome. I will turn things briefly over to our staff host who will go over the ground rules for tonight's hearing.
Here are the ground rules for tonight's hybrid hearing. In-person public testimony divided two groups, for and against/neutral. They'll be called upon to speak during their allotted in-person public testimony section, given their name for the audio record and position on the proposal. Call-in public testimony called upon individually during the call-in public testimony portion of the hearing, given their name for the audio record, as well as if they are favored, neutral, or against the proposal. Please mute audio when not speaking. Emailed comments received during public hearing will be read into the record by staff after the call-in public testimony section of the hearing. All comments and questions shall be addressed to the Planning Commission and should be relevant to the application and not be of a personal nature. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to provide testimony and shall speak into the microphone. Please avoid repetitive comments. If there are a large number of speakers who are part of a group or organization, please elect a representative to speak on behalf of the group. Behavior such as clapping, booing, hissing, or remarks is prohibited. Every citizen here tonight should have the opportunity to testify without such distractions.
Are there any questions regarding the public hearing ground rules? Seeing none, the order of the hearing shall be as follows. Planning staff shall provide a staff report. The commission may ask questions.
I just realized,
What?
there's the whole section of, here, let me go print that off real quick for you guys.
Aaron,
think that's-
what?
The section of, the conflict of interest.
I think that's what we were talking about. I didn't see it in
I just realized that.
here.
It's missing. Okay, so, we don't need the section, I can explain it.
Yeah,
So, there are items on the agenda, there are 4 items on the agenda. Conflict of interest or perceived conflicts of interest. If you have family members, you have a personal interest, a familial or friend interest in this activity, you should recuse yourself from, go get it, because I'm leaving things out.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Can you print it to that printer?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
We all know it, but we have to read it into the record, so I apologize. And if we don't do it right, then it can get. We just need one. Wonder how that's weird that disappeared like that.
Has it always been on page 2 under the public hearings section?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Something happened, but
Huh, wait a second.
I printed an old version and it's not on
Yeah,
here.
that's what I'm
No,
noticing.
it's- no, this is gonna have it. And that's what you get for cleaning out your box. All my old paperwork's gone. Wait a second, has been turned on. It's gotta warm up, computer. Just give it to Mike.
So
Okay.
it's just right there.
okay. Okay, so turning for a moment to our commission members, let's keep in mind that we are prohibited by law from communicating with members of the public on the subject matter of these hearings, except in these hearings. We also may not participate in a decision in which there is an appearance of conflict of interest to the average person. So let's take a minute to consider as to the matters which are before us for hearing today, whether we had any ex parte communications, whether we have any ownership interests in the properties, whether we have any business dealings with proponents or opponents of the matters, or whether we have any business associates or immediate family who may be either benefited or harmed by a decision in these matters. Are there any commission members who have a declaration at this time regarding any of the items on the agenda? And I'll start with, I've known Mr. Alfred and Mr. Gamache for quite a while, and they're just friends of mine, but I don't have any business interests or that would require me, in my opinion, to recuse myself from the matter.
Yep.
So,
And is that referring to all 4 items on the agenda?
no, that's
Or
just
it's
one.
just this
That's
one?
just the one.
Okay, since we have 4, let's try to get all that cleared up now so we can move relatively smooth once we
Right.
start. We don't want to.
That would be
do
just,
this every-
just for the one item.
So which one is that?
That's the billboard.
The
item,
billboard.
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on this one?
I would, oh,
yeah.
I'd say the same sentiment as Mike on the billboard, but I don't feel the need to recuse myself, so.
Now, that's, you have knowledge of the landowner, not necessarily he's putting the sign up.
I know the landowner and James and Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, this is Franklin County,
Yeah.
everybody
Right.
knows everybody, so.
But
Okay, so,
I as well know
know
James,
them, okay.
but I don't feel the need to recuse myself on that.
Okay. Okay, and then CUP 2023-05. That's the addition of the 4,000 milking cows for the existing dairy at 5D Farms.
I need to recuse myself on that one.
Okay, so what'll happen at that time, there's a lot of debate as to whether you gotta leave the room or not. You don't have to leave the room unless I see you making like eyes at the board or doing weird things like that, then I'll ask you to leave. You know, it's, some people claim, the reality is, when I read the rules, it states you have to recuse yourself from the vote. There's nothing that prohibits you from hearing things at this stage. Commissioners may operate differently than us, but because it's a recommending body, it's not quite the same. So, okay. Anybody else on that one? Other than the fact everybody knows everybody? Okay.
I've sat in the same row with him in church, but sadly I've never talked to him very much.
Oh, well, that's good for this evening. Okay. Number 3 is for a proposal to allow the construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit. Anybody, and that's Navarro,
No.
right? And the last is a zone change up in the Basin City area, and that is Sandoval is his last name. Anything? All right. Okay, so now we go back to the beginning of number 1.
Okay. So then the order of the hearing shall be as follows. Planning staff shall provide a staff report. The commission may ask questions of staff. The applicant or applicant's representative presentation, in-person public testimony, for, against, neutral regarding the project, if any. Call-in public testimony, for, against, or neutral regarding the project, if any. Email public testimony, for, against, or neutral regarding the project, if any, to be read into the record by staff. Final staff comments, clarification of public statements that occurred during the testimony portion of the public hearing. Close the public hearing and planning commission discussion of the proposed action. Are there any procedural questions before we begin the public hearing?
Make a comment, do we do it on the mic or just standing at the podium?
But yeah, you just state your name and, you know, at that point.
Position at that point.
Position, right.
Yeah.
So, item number 1.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is a conditional use permit for Desert River Development regarding a billboard sign. Address is 860 Pepiot Road, Mesa. Parcel number is 109-310-024. Zoning is general industrial, I-2. Within the city of Mesa's UGA, so it's in our jurisdiction, just like the donut holes for Pasco, but it's in their UGA. In some point in the future, they'll potentially annex the area. It's approximately 20.34 acres is the property. Project is located to the south and east of US Highway 395, north of Pepiot Road and west of Cordes Road. Or is that Cordis? Cordis. To construct a double-sided V-shaped billboard. Area to be used is approximately 100 square foot of the, so that's basically where the pylons and stuff like that are gonna go. And that's basically the disturbance. There'll probably be some electrical stuff coming up as well, unless it's a static billboard. Will be 576 square foot, and the overall height of the billboard will be between 42 and 45 feet. I believe that's the primary reason why this is a CUP, because if it were 35 foot or below, it would have been probably permitted by right. because of the I-2 zoning. That's the subject property. And that's about where the sign is going to be located. There's pictures. There's a whole lot of that. So I don't think it'll disturb very many people. On or about November 30th, 2023, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 1 mile and posted in the Franklin County Graphic. We also posted a land use action sign on the property on December 18th, 2023, and made a SEPA determination of non-significance, which was registered as number 202305596 in the SEPA registry. We got agents and comments from Public Works, if they're going to be running power or utilities out there, and it's going to be within the right-of-way, they'll have to get a utility agreement or a franchise agreement. Approach permit will be required if they are needing to come and go off of that road. And then if they end up needing to do utility extension crossing. It's not likely that it's going to occur, but in case it does, that's the conditions they'll need to make as far as Public Works goes. The biggest potential agency of concern is DOT. However, it does not appear, based on their comments, that there's any concern with this. They've already started their, and by this point probably have completed their application to DOT. DOT's got a regulation that if you're putting in these types of signs, they have to be certain distances, and then you may have to pay them a fee. But that's between them and DOT. At the time of when they go to pull their permits, we'll of course confirm that all of that stuff's been done. So there's a fence there. Basically, they don't want it moved. They're not going to grant any access. I don't think they were asking for it, but they also tell you things just in case. We recommend, and then they want to, that it meets a sufficient distance from the highway to accommodate, which, yeah, we'll do that with a footprint off of the, they'll submit their drawings, we'll look at their site plan, we'll ensure that it's off adequate from the pavement edge to ensure, or at least minimize potential impacts. And then they'll need to comply with the setback requirements provided in Franklin County Public Works and DOT. So our analysis, double-sided V-shaped sign. Because they're seeking relief from the sign requirements, like I mentioned, that's why we're here for the CUP. And, okay, they have already completed the approval process. So that was, when they first contacted us, that was the first thing we told them, you got to go talk to DOT. You don't want to deal with us and find out that DOT is going to jam you up or something. Proposed use is in the I-2 district, and it is in accordance with goals and policies of county development regulations. It will not adversely affect public infrastructure. It will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing or intended character. It's on the side of an interstate freeway, so yeah, I don't think it's going to bother things. And we don't have a lot of what they call sign pollution in Franklin County, thankfully. You know, I'll give credit to DOT. They limit that to some degree. There's distance requirements that are pretty significant between these types of structures. And whereas we don't want these cluttering up our viewscape, one isn't going to really do it. There's not much between here and there. Yeah, so, you know, we start picking them up a little bit more as we get closer to the city of Pasco. But when you go out there, I think there's only, between here and Ritzville, I think there's 3 billboard locations, not counting some of the stuff that you see in like Tokyo and, well, actually Tokyo's on the other side. Anyways. Location and height of the structure. Site design will not discourage the development of permitted uses on property in the general vicinity. It's not going to be any more objectional to trucks hitting e-brakes or Jake brakes and various other things going on the highway. And again, we'll ensure that the placement of the sign is such that everybody's satisfied that it's not going to be a potential risk if somebody leaves the road or something like that. In addition to the standard CUP language that we have, the applicant shall comply with the requirements of the following agencies: Franklin County Public Works, Washington State Department of Transportation, and the Franklin County Planning and Building Department. And I do have a suggested motion if you have, but more than happy to answer any questions.
I've got a question, just out of curiosity. Does WashDOT regulate the content of the sign? I mean,
Not that I'm aware of. The state has certain regulations regarding signage, and then we do
Right.
too, but it's pretty reflective and based on federal rulings. Anything that can be, you can't advertise for any illegal activity. You can't threatening people could be construed as advertising for, so there's limits to what can be done on it. But that stuff's that's kind of outside of us. We're not going to step into the middle of and tell someone they can or cannot post something on the sign. That's really up to other people to get involved in that. We're not into censoring
all right,
as an agency. So.
all right, thank you. So is that any other questions
I got a quick
for
question.
staff?
Just for understanding on the way the WSDOT sees the setback requirements, do they set those themselves and have already set a
Not that
setback
I'm aware of.
requirement?
I mean, I'm sure if I were to send them a letter or ask them, where do you want this sign, they'd give me a number. But generally, I mean, we have requirements. You can't have structures within 25 feet of a property line. Plus, the right-of-way fence line is off the asphalt by quite a few feet, probably like tens of feet. So the structure, and then I'd have to go out. I didn't personally see the elevation. But if it's lifted, it's on an outcropping, then that's a different duct than if it's set down low, these types of things. But we'll do that. But yeah, they'll have suggestions, and then things within their right of way, they can dictate. But outside of their right of way, they have no authority.
Any other questions?
Oops. I should say they have very limited authority.
Does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak?
So my name is James Alford, owner of Desert River Development. There's nothing I wish to add to this except for clarification that we did go through the WSDOT process before going on through this venture. We were issued 2 permits, one for each side of the billboard. It was the only permit that they issued in the state last year out of the whole state. It's pretty rare to be able to find a piece that meets all the parameters. It is industrial ground. There are no other billboards that are in the area. The proposed construction is a V-sided monopole, and it wouldn't be an eyesore by any means. It'd be one of the nicer billboards in the county. And outside of that, it's just going to be a general purpose billboard that is open for lease. We do have language within the lease with the landowner that it can't be offensive or anything of that nature. And so it'll be kind of your run-of-the-mill, billboard. And then if you guys had any other questions, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Is there any in-person public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project, if any? Is there any call-in public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project, if any? Seeing none, email public testimony for, against, neutral? Okay. Does staff have any final comments?
Nope, we do have a recommended motion.
Is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? The public testimony portion of the public hearing for CUP 2023-04/SEPA 2023-14 is closed. Is there any discussion among the planning commission prior to entertaining a motion? I would entertain a motion at this point.
I move that the Franklin County Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners with the 6 suggested findings of fact and 10 suggested conditions of approval as detailed in the staff report, and approve case file CUP 2023-04/SEPA 2023-14.
Second?
I will second.
Okay, so Commissioner Knifton has moved and Commissioner Gutierrez has seconded that we move forward on this. Is there any discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner DeRuiter,
Yes.
Commissioner Knifton,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Yes.
Chair, the motion has been approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, so item number 2 then. Item number 2 is a public hearing for file CUP 2023-05/SEPA 2023-15 is a proposal for the addition of 4,000 milking cows for the existing dairy, 5D Farms, bringing the number of previously approved 8,000 head to 12,000 head, an increase of 4,000 animal units. The applicant plans to construct new freestyle barns, pens, and remodel the current milking facility to accommodate the increased count. I declare the public hearing for CUP 2023-05/SEPA 2023-15 to be open. May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Yes, you may, just a second. Okay. Commissioner DeRuiter. Are you recusing yourself from this one? Okay. Okay, item number 2. Well, I'm not going to go over it again because Commissioner Vincent just did it well. It's a request to add 4,000 for a total of 12,000 head at a dairy facility. The address is 2300 Cruise Road. Parcel number is 110-410-047. Zoning is agricultural production 20, AP 20. Comp plan designation is agricultural, and the property size is approximately 162.1 acres. Location is south of Cruise Road, west of Juniper Dunes Road, east of Frontier Road, and north of Caps Road. Proposal is for the addition of 4,000 milking cows for the existing dairy facility, 5D Farms, bringing the number of milking cows from the previously approved 8,000 head to 12,000 head. Plus, they'll be constructing new freestall barns, pens, and remodeling current milking facility to accommodate the increased count. The site plan that was provided showed us the site access, location of existing freestall barns, existing manure management area, and location of proposed new freestall barns. So this is the subject property. This is the, and this is an attached aspect of this whole thing as part of the facility, but we're really only focusing on that point right there. So these are some of the new proposed elements going in to accommodate the increase. Here's some sites or photos of the site. These are, of course, existing. And then this the notification sign, but as you can see, there's a lot of open space out there. On or about January 4, 2024, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 1 mile, and the Franklin County Graphic. Posted a pending land use action sign on the property on January 16th. Issued a SEPA optional determination of non-significance. And registered that as SEPA registry number 202-400-016. So what this is depending on comments and final information received during the public hearing, there's a possibility that the SEPA determination may be changed or modified with additional conditions. That's the optional part. The ones where you don't see optional, that's where we've made a determination, and that's what we think's going to be, that's the way it's going to go. So these bigger kind of, when we start getting into things that maybe are a little outside of our staff's personal purview and understanding, we rely on other agencies to provide comment or what. I mean, we do that all the time, but this is kind of a, hey guys, if you got comments, we need them so that we can amend or modify our stuff to reflect those. That said, there's a few places we've been through this before. We do know what we're doing on these types of processes. But you never know what's been changed or something that we're just not aware of. Agency comments received from Franklin PUD, Franklin County Public Works, Franklin County Planning and Building Department, and Washington Department of Ecology. We received no public comments regarding the proposed expansion. That means from neighbors. The application is an amendment to previously approved conditional use permits 1999-10, 2004-11, and 2010-01. The original CUP was 1999-10. They've expanded over the years. That's what those, for the most part, that's what those CUP requests were for incremental increases up to the current allowed use of 8,000, and now we're here today looking for, they're looking for another 4,000. So in Franklin County, anybody can own up to 500 head of dairy, 1,000 head of cattle, but for some reason dairy's on, I guess because they stay in one place, I don't know, but 500 for milking cows, permitted by right. Anything exceeding that requires a CUP, conditional use permit. And then whenever they increase that head count, that's considered a major amendment, which is why they have to go through basically. Now, there is no processing difference really between a new conditional use permit or an amended. It still takes the same amount of time, goes through the same processes. But with the amended, you have a history that you can rely on and look back and see things. Also, it's an indicator, like, for example, if somebody had an amendment and we were getting lots of complaints or something like that, that might affect our determination or, these types of things. But none of that happened here. We didn't get any comments. That's usually a good sign of operations. So, the proposed use in the AP 20 zoning district is in accordance with the goals and policies of the county. I mean, that's our designated ag land. Cows live in the country. Got to have them somewhere, and that's basically where they're at. The proposal will not adversely affect public infrastructure. The proposal will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing and intended character of the general vicinity. The location and height of the structure and site design will not discourage the development of permitted uses on property in the general vicinity or impair the value of. I really don't think people are going to notice the difference between 8 or 12. except for maybe additional trips coming in and out of the facility. But that would be addressed at the time of actual development, and things like that when they actually start building things. Operation in connection with the proposal will not be more object, it's been there for 25 years. So if it was going to be an issue, it would have arisen by now. The proposal will not endanger the public health safety because they're going to be, one, they're already in operation. Two, they're going to have to, abide by the waste management regulations and the various other things that are actually outside of us, and handled by other agencies at the state and federal level. In addition to the standard CUP language, best management practices to minimize dust during construction shall be used. We're looking at an inadvertent discovery protocol, meaning if you come across something, you need to stop, contact, archaeological materials or anything like that. You need to stop work, but we're not requiring a study in advance or anything like that. In fact, we didn't even get any comments from them on this, did we? DHP. They usually comment on everything. Application for Franklin County shall be submitted for fencing and structures. For the fencing, but not the movable cattle fencing. You don't need a permit for those, but if you're putting in permanent fencing or things like that. But again, we'll have those discussions at the time of actual build. Some things may be consolidated into a single permits, other things may have to be individual building permits. Applicant will need to comply with any other local, state, and federal regulations. An approach permit is required to access county roads. Again, at the time of construction, they'll go out there and determine based on the increase of traffic or anything else, whether or not modifications need to be made to the existing access. That's really purely a public works call, but this is this is on all their comments when it comes to things like this. Any utility extension crossing Franklin County roads will be addressed at the time of application. And I'm happy to answer questions, and I do have a suggested motion.
Thank you, Derek. Anybody have any questions? I don't. Seems pretty straightforward. Does the applicant or the applicant's representative wish to speak?
Hello, I'm Steve DeRitter from 5D Farms. We're looking into the possibility with succession planning with our two sons actively involved. Like everything, we have to continue to grow to overcome inflation and overhead. We have had a unique opportunity to partner up with Advanced Renewables of Washington with some state-of-the-art technology for handling our waste. This project will only go forward once that system has proved itself. So if it will work, there's lots of engineering behind it, but we'll make sure it does work. And waste is a key and most important part of our operation, maintaining it and keeping our neighbors happy. And this project actually will it'll make us more efficient. It's going to take trucks off the road for our operation.
Oh.
And the parlor itself, if we do remodelings of our milking parlors, we'll be cutting back there as well. So I'd like to think we have a good track record with our neighbors. We have a good track record with our community. And we look forward to having the ability to expand this in the future under the right technology. Thank you.
They were approved, I want to say last year for, last year for a facilities, very, gas captured, that type of thing.
Yep.
So I believe that's what it was referencing there.
I think I remember we discussed that as well in one of our meetings.
Yeah, they I don't know, I can't remember if it was them specifically. It may have been the actual agent that's building the system. But, yeah, they actually have a CUP for one of these digester facilities, similar to what the city just got for their big expansion they're doing.
Is there any more in-person public testimony, for, against, or neutral regarding the project? Seeing none, is there any call-in public testimony? Is there any email public testimony? Does staff have any final comments?
Just one thing, again, don't know whether or not this facility's gonna be involved in that or if they have a different market, but one thing that we always, we had two things happen in Franklin County that kind of shook up some of our facilities, that we had, and that was the Easter Day issue, so feedlots, slaughter yards, various other things they're just in a state of flux. So we will probably start seeing more activity once that smoke clears and people see where things are sitting, because we still have those same needs. It's just some of the facilities are in a strange state of flux. And the second thing is a Dairy Gold facility is going in, and they need milk. So I have a feeling we'll be seeing other requests for increase, because obviously it's going to be best in Dairy Gold's best interest to try to buy local if they can, because if nothing else, your shipping costs are minimized, and it's closer and it's fresher and all that stuff. So I think for staff, we're supportive of this proposal, as you see in our recommendation. So
Yeah, based on the size of that Dairy Gold plant going in, they're gonna need quite a bit of business there, I would think. But is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? Any clarification of public statements? Okay, so the public testimony portion of the public hearing for CUP 2023-05/SEPA 2023-15 is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the planning commission prior to entertaining a motion? Oh, there's, okay.
don't even look at him.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
There's a suggested motion.
Okay, I would entertain a motion, suggested motion.
I move that the Franklin County Planning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the 6 findings of fact and 14 conditions of approval detailed in the staff report and approve the case file CUP 2023-05-SEAPA 2023-15.
I'll second
Second.
it.
Okay, so Commissioner Gutierrez has moved and Commissioner Knifton seconded that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for CUP 2023-05/SEPA 2023-15 with 6 adopted findings of fact and 14 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner Knifton,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez,
Yes.
the motion has been approved.
All righty, thank you. So moving on to item number 3. Item number 3 is a public hearing for file CUP 2024-01/SEPA 2024-02 is a proposal to allow for the construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit, a DADU. The applicant is proposing to building a new DADU not to exceed 1,600 square feet to help with the
Care, not acre.
care of an, okay, care of an aged relative. I declare the public hearing for CUP 2024-01/SEPA 2024-02 to be open. I don't know what the time is, 7:16. May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is a conditional use permit for a detached ADU located at 205 Allen Road on parcel number 110174017. The zoning is rural residential 5, or R5. Comp plan designation is rural remote, and the property is approximately 5.02 acres. It is located south of Pasco Colotis Road, east of Martindale Road, south of Green Road, west of Allen Road. That's a lot of west. West of Arusa Road and north of the Snake River. As mentioned, it's a request to add a detached accessory dwelling unit not to exceed 1,600 square feet. The site plan features adjoining road, driveway access, existing single-family dwelling, septic area, the well, and the 100-foot protection radius, and the location of the proposed ADU. This is the subject property. There. Martindale. There's Decker and Green. Photo of the site, posting. This is a draft site plan. Give an idea of what they're proposing. The detached accessory dwelling unit would be around, is right here. This is the existing house, location, reserve area, well radius. So, I don't know, their septic system. Most likely they'll need to get another septic system for this. But as you can see, they've got plenty of area to put in a septic and a reserve. That'll be worked out between them and the health department. Assuming this is approved. On or about February 1st, 2024, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 1 mile, Franklin County Graphic, posted a land use action sign on the property on February 14th, and made a SEPA optional determination of non-significance. SEPA registry number 202-400-454. No public comments were received for this proposal. As mentioned, it's a request for a detached accessory dwelling unit, and the purpose is so that the property owner can take care of an aged relative. This is in conformance to the intent of DADUs, where they are to be used for aged parents, aged relatives, disabled children, or disabled relatives. There's some other uses, but this is what's relevant. In the application, that they stated that they would not exceed 1,600 square feet. Maximum DADU size in Franklin County is 1,600 square foot, so they can do anything up to that. Well, between 720 and 800 or 1,600. Property where the DADU will be constructed is approximately 5.02 acres, which exceeds the minimum 2-acre lot size. And they can do either a stick built or a factory assembled or some sort of engineered structure. We don't care how they do it. There are different processes that applications have to fill out based on that, but as long as it's less than 1,600 square foot, and it meets, building code requirements and or HUD, it should be fine. They will need to comply with the design guidelines as established in the DADU use regulation standards, along with completing the building permit application. Approach permit is required to access Franklin County roads, and any utility extension crossing Franklin County roads will be addressed at the time of application. Letter was provided by the Department of Ecology. It's basically, if you're doing this, then you need to do that. If you're doing this, you need to do that. It's what we call their form letter. Bonneville Power Administration most likely has something to do with, you got to make sure that you got the power. Franklin County Planning and Building for the construction or placement of the DADU. They'll need to get the building permit application, needs to comply with the standards of the currently adopted building code. The state just adopted on the 15th, the 2021 energy code and the new building code. So let your friends know that. We are there. Don't do 2018 plans anymore. The ADU should not be sold separately from the primary dwelling and other existing structures on the property. Living area should not be used other than for the intended purposes. In other words, you can't have like a home profession or business operating out of that facility. It's for occupancy by a family member. So, and then they'll have to follow all in the 17.66060, there's various things that you can and cannot do with your ADU or your ADU. The proposed use in the RR5 zoning district is in accordance with the goals and policies of county development regulations and the applicable comprehensive plan. Proposal will not adversely affect public infrastructure. It will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony. That whole area is just large lot residential and small hobby farms. It'll just look like another building on the property. The location and height of the structure and site design will not discourage the development of permitted uses on property in the general vicinity. It will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise fumes. Again, it's a house, surrounded by houses and outbuildings. The proposal will not endanger the public's health safety because they'll have to meet the minimum safety and health requirements for any type of build. In addition to standard CUP language, the applicant shall comply with the comments provided by Washington Department of Ecology, Bonneville Power Administration, Franklin County Public Works, and Franklin County Planning and Building Department. And I am happy to answer any questions, and I do have a suggested motion.
The only question that really pops out at me is, and I think we've covered this before on title zoning, under chapter 17.82. What are some of the regulations or the permitting provisions? Let's just say that this CUP happens. What if they decided to sell
Do the house?
the house with a new unit?
And then you're asking what happens to that unit?
Exactly.
Um,
Question.
Technically, well, that's never been addressed that I'm aware of. There is a caveat in the code that does allow for the county to require that the structure be removed. However, it doesn't really refer to that situation. So generally what happens is it will continue on as an approved conforming use. But it is still only to be occupied by family or permanent hired help.
And that's with the new buyer, per se?
That's
They can
the-
use it for the same thing?
They
don't have to submit
cannot
for a-
rent it out.
Okay.
That unit shall
That's my
not be
question.
rented as a private rental unless codes change. I mean, but that's how things currently sit. And frankly, I believe the codes will be changing because the state is pushing that way to allow for people to, cities right now are already restricted in what they can and cannot do with regard to ADUs, whereas they weren't. Counties at this point really aren't yet, but that's because they generally don't think about counties. It's all about cities. But yeah, even the new buyer, they don't get to rent that out, and that continues forever. If they do, then the county would have grounds to require the new owner to remove the structure from the property.
There's only one title and one owner for the whole property.
Yeah.
Correct.
So as far as from a tax standpoint and ownership, that's clear.
Yep.
So the title and tax code that you referred to, that's more the energy code requirements, right? As far as compliance
What do you mean?
to the new, you said the title.
2021?
The title and, no, I'm the state adopted code.
Yeah, no, I was talking about, okay, so the International Building Code and the Washington Data Energy
That's what I
Code,
meant,
we've
yeah.
been operating on 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That's ended. As of March 15th, everything that comes in after that date is 2021.
That was all updated then.
Yeah, and then, you know, we're going through the process of modifying our new, yeah, they adopted it and said it goes into effect on the 15th and gave us confirmation on the 12th
Is there any
that
kind
they
of
were adopting it. So we didn't really have an ordinance prepared for it.
modular construction is acceptable for, as long as it meets, it's compliant as far as building code and all that?
Right, the FASs, they are built to a different standard. Then your stick-built is built according to the IBC. The manufactured homes, they're pretty close. Some of them are actually very, you know, to IBC standards, but the minimum standard is what they call the HUD standard, which is a federal standard with regard to these types of units. You don't see those minimum ones very much. Most of them are now 2x6 construction or better. And they also have pretty much the same, not quite, but close to the same resale value. But then you got then you got container homes. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. Now, container homes and things like that, those have to be engineered. So you have to have an actual engineer the building and stuff. So those are kind of the three types. You'll either fall under the IBC if it's prescriptive, the FAS HUD rules if it's a manufactured home, and then if it's a modular, like in the true modular sense that when you're done, it looks like it comes in pieces and they build it and it's multi-story and stuff like that. That's kind of a combination between IBC and engineering. The engineering or things like bale houses or just anything that's not in the IBC and not an actual recognized or stamped FAS falls under engineering. Because frankly, if you got enough money nowadays, there pretty much isn't anything you can't do. The materials and stuff out there today are interesting that are available. There's hempcrete that's made out of the waste from the CBD stalks. There's only two places, and when I say places, I mean actual buildings, that it's been used in the United States, but it's actual carbon. It sucks in carbon, but it doesn't make good outside walls. So, I mean, but they're working on all sorts of weird building materials. Any of that stuff, that's going to require engineering.
Which engineering could also get involved as far as the state adopted energy code and that kind of thing.
The energy code stands alone. Doesn't matter whether it's engineered, stick built, however you build it, you shall meet the energy code.
Right.
That's over here. So yes, if it's engineered, FAS, or FASs seem to just already meet it. I haven't seen a requirement for energy code to be applied to an FAS, but stick built or engineered buildings, they
How
have
many
to
credits
meet the
on
new.
a 1,600 square foot?
I'm sorry?
How many credits would you require on a 1,600 square foot?
It's gone up. I think now they're looking for 3,
Okay.
whereas before it was like 2.5.
Right.
And then, but they've changed some of the valuations associated with the thing. So like, to get that with your windows, whereas before you only need double, now you need triple. And, but there's other offsets. You put solar, I mean, it's like adjusting a carburetor. You tweak it here and it goes off over there. And your mini splits and your efficiencies of your units, a lot of it goes into that. But yeah, the energy code has to be met separate and independent of how it's designed.
You don't get involved in any design criteria as far as exterior finishes, do you? Or do you have some kind of requirement
We do.
as far as
I don't think,
to their existing house?
if you're in an RC zone, there is.
Right.
This is RR, isn't it? Is this
It is.
RR5? Yeah, so in the RR zones, there is not.
Right.
So the shoreline areas, the RC, anything that's RC1 or RC5, has that requirement.
Right.
Otherwise, it doesn't.
Yeah, I can see in a different neighborhood, maybe an HOA would take it to another, which you don't get involved with that.
That's right.
I get that.
And if an HOA collapses and it
Yeah.
goes to defunct for over a year, all CCNRs are no longer valid.
Right.
So it becomes a legal battle between landowners.
Last question that I have is that I saw that there was a bill with the legislature as far as DADUs and the fact that they were going to be, sound like mandated to
In
local
cities.
jurisdictions. Did that ever go through?
In cities, yes.
Okay, down in
Counties-
county?
They're still playing with that, and the legislation just ended, so I haven't had a chance to see what they've all done yet.
I just thought it was on the table. I'm just curious. It
It's-
sounds like that's going to go through.
Most of the time, these things start out cities and counties, but when they're done, counties disappear, and it's just cities. But not always, so I just have to go back and look in again. But yeah, every year they're pushing more of these. The idea is to allow, there's two things. One, it helps with the housing crisis.
Right.
Two, it also brings in an extra source of income to the resident. Problem is it's not quite as simple as that to actually get the financing and build them. So basically, if you got a lot of money, this works for you. If you're average Joe, you're probably not gonna be able to build an ADU because it costs a lot of money. But.
Or if
it's
you're living
something.
in the DADU and your kids are living in the house.
That's
it's a
becoming
brilliant
more and
plan.
more, that's becoming more and more common.
Yeah,
I get about 3 or 4 of those a month now.
I think I like it.
Out in the
Personally.
AP 20s, I shouldn't say, maybe it's 1 or 2 a month. Out in the AP 20s, because out in the AP 20s, you can build more houses as for a family in the,
Yeah.
working towards the farm and stuff like that.
Sounds good.
Other
Okay.
questions?
Any other questions? Or Derek, does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak? See anybody out there?
Nope.
So there's no in-person public testimony, for, against, neutral regarding the project, call-in testimony, email public testimony. Does staff have any final comments?
Nope.
Okay, so moving right along, is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? Seeing none, the public testimony portion of the public hearing for CUP 2024-01/SEPA 2024-02 is closed. Is there any discussion among the planning commission prior to entertaining a motion? No, seeing none. So I would entertain a motion, a suggested motion at this time.
I move that the Franklin County Planning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the 6 findings of fact and 12 conditions of approval detailed in the staff report and approve case file CUP 2024-01/SEPA 2024-02.
Just a second.
Second.
Okay, so Commissioner Knifton has moved and Commissioner DeRuiter has seconded that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for CUP 2024-01/SEPA 2024-02 with 6 adopted findings of fact and 12 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner DeRuiter,
Yes.
Commissioner Knifton,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along to item number 4 is a public hearing for file ZC 2023-02/SEPA 2023-17 is a proposal for a zoning designation change from agricultural production 20, AP 20 to rural service commercial C2 within the designated rural settlement area of Basin City. I declare the public hearing for ZC 2023-02/SEPA 2023-17 to be open at 7:36. May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is a zone change request to change the current zoning designation from agricultural protection 20 to rural service commercial C2. The parcel number is 121232415. The property is generally located north of First Avenue, south of Park Drive, and west of Bailey Boulevard. Property size is approximately 3.92 acres. Comp plan is rural settlement, and the current zoning is AP 20. This is the subject parcel. So you got the schools here, the park with the, well, you'll see it better, but the park with the rodeo arena and stuff like that's over there. I think this is a church. That's the church. Okay, now I know why we got the comments. And then here's an aerial showing the zoning. So we have AP 20, C2, RC1. So, you know, with this changing, it's just continuing. This is a, well, now it's a gas station. It was just a convenience store, and then over here is the manufactured home park. So it's right on the edge of town,
Excuse me.
if it were a town, on the edge of town. Application is to rezone one parcel from 3.92 acres to AP 20. It is in a limited area of more intense rural development. That's what a Lammert is, and I'll be saying Lammert, not that other local limited area. Being designated as rural settlement in the Franklin County Comprehensive Plan. With this designation in place, the property is eligible to be zoned as rural service commercial through what we call a simple rezone. Everything within the boundaries of the Lammert for Basin City can be converted and change the zoning, because normally what we see, let me go back to this. So most of the time when we get a rezone request, it's out in the blocks or something, you know, like that. Or it's down in like the donut holes or something. There's a big, you can't see it because of the scale, but there's a big box around Basin City. You have the actual fan shape that it has. Well, that's not the whole Lammert. That's just the middle of the Lammert. There's land all the way around it in a box that can be converted, to allow that Lammert to grow, but it shall not extend beyond that boundary. You guys heard a lot about the Lammerts and stuff like that with the whole CPA discussion about so the logical out of boundary is this box. It's not what you see developed. And anything in that box can go through a simple rezone, because the rural settlement designations, and the intent behind it is we want these little pockets to have flexibility to kind of like development as commercial centers or something like that. Service centers is another type of designation, to where you don't have everybody having to drive to Pasco to get anything. You can set up some stores and various other stuff. So it's designed specifically to be an extremely flexible, comprehensive plan designation. Basically, you can have whatever you guys kind of think you need. But generally, another thing you will find is that the zones most readily acceptable for a rezone are ones that already exist in the Lammert. So you'll see in certain, like here in Merrill's Corner, you'll see residential, commercial, industrial. Well, for any of those, since those already, and then ag, but there's no general need to rezone to ag. But you could if you wanted to. You could come back in but it's not really what the intent is, but in theory you could. There's nothing that would prohibit you. So, based on that, it does. So, that has something to do with why we're recommending what we're recommending, is it matches with the thing, there is no real issue with it. We'll get into some other stuff in a minute. But that's why it's a simple rezone. That's why they don't have to go through a comprehensive plan amendment before they change the zoning. So in a narrative statement submitted with the application, the applicant to describe the purpose of the request is to allow the possibility of building multifamily. So in other words, that's his intention. He's hoping that with this approval, he'll be able to build multifamily. Any rezone determination shall be made based on the understanding that if the rezone is approved, any uses permitted in the C2 may be allowed. So, you may find that, multifamily just isn't what I want. I want to do something else. As long as it's allowed in the C2 zone, it's allowed. If we were to say approve it only because he was doing multifamily housing, that's called a conditional approval or rezone. You're not allowed to do that. You either rezone the property for its full intensive use, or you don't, if you're not comfortable with that. So the fact that it could be a multifamily, it could be a gas station, it could be a grocery store, it could be anything that's allowed in the commercial zone. So on or about January 4, 2024, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 500 feet in the Franklin County Graphic, posted a pending land use action sign on the property on January 15, 2024, and issued a SEPA determination of non-significance, which is filed in the SEPA registry as number 202-400-045. So we did receive comments from the following agencies: Franklin County Public Works. Any new lots that may be created as a result of this proposed zone change will require access to a county road. Any mitigation fees required will be determined upon development of the property and will go towards future road upgrades as development continues to grow in the area. So, depending on what's actually built, if it is approved, will determine if or what the impact fees would be. If we built a school there, that's going to be different than, or somehow got Walmart to show up. I don't know if Walmart would fit on that property, but anyways. So Washington State Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation recommends a professional archaeological survey of the project area be conducted and a report be produced prior to ground disturbing activities. Thanks, but that would really come out later when we're actually building, but they're letting us know this doesn't affect the ground. And then the Washington State Department of Ecology, form letter, if this, then that. Staff did not receive any comments in favor of the proposal. We received 31 comments in opposition of the rezone request. All comments mentioned or had some mention of either low-income housing or farm labor housing, as proposed, which is not the intent of the developer. I don't know where they got this idea. Well, it's because in his application he mentions that he's looking to build housing to provide housing for farm workers. But folks don't. I think what happened is they confused that with H-2A housing. I don't know if they're aware what farm workers get paid nowadays, but they can afford market rate houses. Plus, not anybody can open low-income housing. Not anybody can just open farm labor housing. You got to go through a pretty extensive process. If you're going to make any money on low-income housing, you have to be working with nonprofits and or housing agencies. We have no indication that that's the case. H-2A housing, well, guess what? If he was doing H-2A housing, we wouldn't be having this conversation because we have no control or say over H-2A housing except for to say, yep, you're building it and it's lower than our maximum height. But other than that, you're in complete violation of our rules. That's what we say. That's what happens for H2A. That's our involvement. They send us a letter and we go, yep, the structure meets our height requirements, meets our setback requirements. No, it does not meet our zoning requirements, design standards, or anything else, but, but that said, I've seen some of this housing. Even the H2A housing is pretty nice, definitely compared to what used to be provided. So, That said, like I said, not sure where they got that confusion, but I think there was no intention or mention by Mr. Sandoval regarding a desire to build low-income or farm labor housing as far as H2A. But I'm sure he's going to be more than happy to have people that work on farms living in his units as long as they're willing to pay the market rate. So, and frankly, we need multifamily, which is why, our recommendation is to approve if he wants to go forward with that. But let's say he doesn't want to. Trust me, Basin City needs other commercial activity and services that there just isn't really the interest or whatever going on up in there. The proximity to the school and the church, there's a lot of different options there. It's very common to have multifamily housing next to schools. Then the kids can walk, so things like that. So, anyways, whatever he ends up doing, unless it's permitted by right, there's going to be another hearing. Because if he goes for multifamily, then there will be a public hearing. There will be more detail provided as to what it is he's doing. Another thing, though, that folks need to be aware of, it is not legal for a government agency to deny an application based on the potential occupancy of the units. So, it's either all or nothing. We don't get to decide who occupies the units. That's between the owner and the outside, and we're not allowed to base our decisions on that. It's either multifamily or no multifamily, commercial or no commercial. It's those types of things.
Well, regardless on what he or the developer decides to do with it, that, like you stated, will go toward in a different path with a different hearing. Our job, and I think a lot of the residents mentioned address the planning commission, but what they don't understand is that we just make the recommendation on the rezoning, not submitting for approval. I think that's where they
It's land
confuse
use.
that a lot.
That's land use.
It's land use.
Right.
My interpretation of the comments are request to deny because of the potentiality of a potential build. And my understanding is that is not an appropriate reason to deny an application.
But like you say,
It's for a conditional use permit application item as well. If he does decide to move forward with multifamily, there will be a hearing, a conditional use permit, and that's the appropriate time to discuss the specifics. But even at that time, let's say he does finagle a way to make it low income, to deny it because it's a low income instead of market rate, under state law, that's not permitted.
but it's at that time that you would see design detail as far as structures.
Yep.
And then if that continues on, you'd see whatever road
Yeah,
improvements and
he'll,
that kind of thing.
for that, he'll have to provide site
Right.
plans and stuff like that, dimensions, if he, number of units, all of those types of things, because we need to see how the site's going to flow and work before we would be able to make a determination as to what. But that's the case with a commercial strip as well. That one might be permitted by right, but he would still, at the time of building, we would check all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's not, this is a rezone to change an area of effectively fallow ground that's just been sitting there for years with nothing being done to it, so.
Okay. So does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak? Nope. In-person public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project? Seeing none, call in public testimony and email. None. Does staff have any final comments?
Nope.
All righty.
Oh, wait, well, I haven't finished my presentation.
That's a final comment.
I thought you were done.
No,
Got me-
I can go
got out
fast
ahead
though
of this
because we
thing
covered a
little
few
bit.
things here.
Could have fooled us.
We got distracted by that last one where I went into a bit of an explanation, sorry. So you guys know this stuff, comp plan guides land use. I just went through all of that, explaining why the rezone is just a simple rezone. Showed you on the map that, you know, we've got similar, so it's not spot zoning. It's undeveloped. Oh, another funny weird thing about this property is technically it's non-conforming because it's less than 20 acres. So that's another reason to get it changed or absorbed into one of the larger parcels. It is consistent with the comp plan designated rural settlement. As mentioned, more intense potential uses, higher density, these types of things. Primary permitted, so these are things that are straight permitted, no CUP required. Operation maintenance of retail establishments for the sale of feed, seed, and commercial fertilizer, farm use, grocery store, fruit store, vegetable market, or bakery, business or professional office. Whereas in the AP 20, you can do single-family dwelling, agriculture, and rural retail. Basically, though, a rural retail business has to do with providing products to farmers and stuff. It doesn't really serve the relatively dense population that exists in Basin City. It is consistent with the surrounding uses. As mentioned, properties to the south are zoned as C2, and you know, it's to provide for the location of small retail and retail wholesale businesses and commercial services in rural areas for the convenience of county residents. The uses are intended to fit into farm and rural patterns of development without creating land use or traffic conflicts. The zoning classification is limited to those areas designated in the comprehensive plan as rural activity center, rural settlement, or agricultural service center. And then rural settlements for crosswords, like I mentioned before, it's to allow for some activities and stuff so people don't have to go forever for little things. So here's the LOB that I was just talking about, logical outer boundary. So your jobs is to render a recommendation to approve with modifications and or conditions, or reject the petition. After completion of the record hearing, open record hearing, you will make and enter findings from the record. That's our suggested findings of fact and conclusions. The proposal is in accord with, so what you're checking is to ensure the proposal is in accord with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. The effect of the proposal in the immediate vicinity will not be materially detrimental. There's merit and value in the proposal for the community as a whole. Conditions should be imposed, whether or not conditions should be imposed in order to mitigate any significant adverse impacts from the proposal, and whether a concomitant agreement should be entered into between the county and the petitioner. If the planning commission wishes to forward a positive recommendation, positive recommendation, the following suggested findings of fact and suggested conditions of approval may be applicable for this case file. Application to rezone 3.92 acres of land to C2 rural service commercial is in accordance with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. The purpose of the C2 rural commercial zoning district provides for the location. We just went over that. Rezoning the properties to C2 is supported by the comprehensive plan because it's got the landmark designation and the underlying comprehensive land use designation. Permitted and conditional uses for the rezoned property will increase diversity of housing along with increasing retail and commercial services provided in the area for the county residents. The effect of the proposal on the immediate will not be material detrimental. Consistency with the surrounding area. The rezone request is consistent. There are commercial and multifamily uses within Basin City rural settlement area and are located to the immediate south and southeast of the proposed rezone. The rezone, there is merit and value. in that the rezone to C2 implements and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan designates the property as rural settlement. The proposal is also consistent with the policy of the plan, which encourage a mixture of residential, commercial, industrial environments. Conditions are required to be imposed. Future developments at the site shall comply with current local, plus they'll have to apply for either building permits or CUP. Sounds like the wind. A concomitant agreement between the county and the petitioner is not required for this application. It's the vacuum. That's what I'm hearing. So, suggesting conditions of approval, future development at the site shall comply with the county development regulations, including but not limited to the following titles of Franklin County Code: building and construction, subdivisions, zoning, and environment. Future development at the site shall comply with local, state, and federal agency standards. Road and access, will be dealt with at the time of development as well, once it's specific. Based on comments, a professional architect may be required prior to the issuance of any building permit submitted requiring ground disturbance activities. We'll make that final determination at that time. Again, that was a little early. A rezone's just changing the use. It implies does not imply a development. Oops. So, any questions?
Any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
I like to think so.
That was a really long comment.
Hey,
Sorry, no,
I
that was
only
my
had
fault.
10 slides to go.
That was my fault. I got all mixed up there.
It's okay.
So, okay, no questions. Is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? Nope. The public testimony portion of the public hearing is closed for ZC 2023-02 / SEPA 2023-17 is closed at 7:58 PM. Is there any discussion among the planning commission prior to entertaining a motion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Your mic on?
Yeah. I moved forward ZC 2023-02 / SEPA 2023-17 to the Board of the County Commissioners, a positive recommendation with 5 findings of fact and 4 conditions of approval as provided in the staff report.
I will second.
A second. Okay, so it's been moved by Commissioner DeRuiter and seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for ZC 2023-02 / SEPA 2023-17 with 5 adopted findings of fact and 4 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner DeRuiter,
Yes.
Commissioner Knifton,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
All righty, thank you.
I had a panic attack there because I was like, oh, wait, we have to have that supermajority thing going, but we have it, so we're good.
Okay, so moving right along, the workshop item has been postponed due to the time constraints associated with this meeting. Workshop discussion on Title 17 revision will resume at a later date.
Yeah, the primary purpose of tonight, having a special meeting, was just to move these packages. We'll deal with business as far as the planning commission goes at our regular meetings. The only time that I'll have a special meeting for like business-related stuff is if we set up a special meeting just to talk about some sort of business piece. So, yeah, we'll try, so just for, and Commissioner DeRuiter, I'll have to get you this documents, but we're going through what I call the big push regarding our zoning code. We've got, the last time it was updated was in '08. what we're trying to do is just kind of get it up to date, and then we're gonna keep bringing it back. And so this is like, I'm using the bulldozer right now, but then when we come back, we're gonna be like tweaking very, very specific, trying to get it to meet the needs and requirements of our current paradigm. The code that we had in '08 was perfectly fine up until this rush. And basically what we're living with today is a completely new paradigm, and the codes were not designed to accommodate. Frankly, I don't think they even envisioned what we've been experiencing happening. So there'll be a lot of proposed changes and stuff like that, but then, like I said, get that adopted hopefully this year, and then over the next few years, start pulling out individual pieces, really looking at it. Because if we do that now, it'll take us forever. This is like a 200-plus page document. So we need to get this heavy lift part done ASAP, and then, it is likely we will have a citizens commission assisting us with the finer tuning of things on those later stages. Those things are still in work. It hasn't been formed. It's just in the discussion stage, but we're making a serious effect, we're going to go and really try to update our codes to reflect a lot of the weirdness that's going on, defend against some of the weirdness that's going on, and then also just to implement things that we're required to under state law, because they've been making a lot of weird changes the last few years. DADUs, duplex, triplex regulations. In a lot of cities, or maybe all the cities, if you can do single family, you can do duplex or triplex. Two, it's permitted by right. That happened last year, or in '22, and then they did a bunch more stuff this year. Of course, at the same time, they increased the cost because they increased the energy code and IBC, but anyways.
Sure.
So that's going to be postponed.
But we are having a regular scheduled second Tuesday meeting in April.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Then there is a vacancy. We do have an application. I'm hoping to hear back soon. My hope is that that person will be approved by this next meeting. But if not, at least we got 6. And it'll be very soon after that they are, assuming they're moved forward.
And we received a schedule of all the meetings, I think, for the year. We got that, so
Yeah, I see that.
see where that.
Yeah, your
the calendar's
stuff
on
got
that.
kind of rushed. There's still some stuff I think we owe you. It was, our biggest concern was to ensure that you had information to be able to make decisions regarding these things tonight. There's some background stuff. There's also, you'll need to take some classes, Open Public Meetings Act and conflict of interest, or, oh wait, that's, yeah, we'll get you all that information. And
We want to do other business, or
we can't
can hold
really,
that,
yeah,
table that?
yep,
Okay.
especially since the guy that wants it done isn't here, so.
Okay, so then,
I do not see anybody in the audience.
no, so I think that we're about ready to adjourn the meeting then. So meeting is adjourned at 8:05 PM.
Thank you all.
Thank you.